Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Former Action Guys podcast. Before we get started, I want to let you know that you can support the show by going over to jcramergraphics.com and picking up an item. We also do discounts for group orders, so if you're looking, your unit, your business, whatever, is looking to do a large purchase, reach out and I'll send you a discount code. That allows you to also let everyone order individually. That way you're not stuck like collecting money, making rosters for sizes, colors, and all the other stuff. You know, that's the worst part about it. I remember doing it when I was in. Also, we offer free shipping on orders of $75 or more. And as always, if you're looking for a custom design for your unit, then reach out and we can facilitate that as well. So again, support the show. Go over to jcramergraphics.com and let's get to it.
I appreciate you reaching out. And like you said, the video got traction. So, you know, I think it'll be cool for your audience to, you know, kind of seem like they were into it. And I mean, I woke up to like 800 new followers. I was like, what the fuck happened? That shit don't happen to me. So I was
nice.
So you posting it sent me like 1,000 new followers. So
I'm glad, dude. I'm glad to hear that. Well, let's go ahead and officially kick this off then. Daniel Rodriquez, like we were just saying, that video, I posted it. I found it on, I think I found it on Twitter or somewhere, and I posted it up on my Instagram, and someone tagged you in it, so I made sure to give you a tag that's your video. And it's crazy because I looked at your YouTube channel, and you have some of the probably like wildest videos of the war in Afghanistan, just because of the unfortunate place that you guys were stationed at. And what I'll do is I'll throw in a clip here that was on Instagram for the people that haven't seen it yet.
Hey, we got a target! 9-1, how many rounds? Hey, 4 rounds, 9-1, let's go, let's go! Go! Yeah. 3 rounds! 3! 3! Fuck! Get back up those guns. Ceasefire! We got it!
So if you just watch that, that's what I'm talking about. You can follow me over on Former Action Guys and Former Action News. What's your Instagram?
Danny Del Rey.
Danny Del Rey. Check his page out. Make sure to give him a follow. So, yeah, man, U.S. soldier, did the war in Afghanistan, did the war in Iraq, got out, decided to, fulfill a promise and play some college football, which is awesome. And now you're into the arts, doing some music and doing some acting, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on the show.
Appreciate you, Justin, for tagging me in that video and following up and having this interview. So thank you.
Yeah, dude. So you said you were raised in Stafford, Virginia, right there by where the museum, the Marine Corps Museum, is at. And you said your dad worked on base in Quantico.
My father was infantry as well. He was a former infantryman, and then he was the athletic director at Quantico when he got out of the Army. So my dad is actually buried at Quantico National Cemetery, and I was born in Woodbridge, Virginia, which is Stafford, the next county down in Stafford. But yeah, I was born and raised there. But my father, both my uncles are Vietnam veterans. My father's a Vietnam veteran. I'm from a long line of infantrymen.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah, I was going to ask if he was Army or Marine, so I guess that makes sense. Was that something that you always felt a calling to do, was join the military?
In a very subtle way, because my father would always be like, if you ever join the military, don't be like me and go infantry, like get a trade out of it. He thought he was going to get drafted, so he joined the first day of his senior year, and then he got sent off to Germany and then did recovery tour in Vietnam. But he would always tell me, like, don't do what I did. But I was infatuated with it. He was very much a fan of movies, of war movies and Westerns. So as a kid, I was at the Army surplus store next to Quantico buying my camos to ghillie out my suits, and I ghillied out my BB guns. I've had rifles under my bed since I was 6. So to me, it was all just stalking and shooting squirrels and birds and hunting my whole life. It was always embedded in me that I had a father who was a soldier. And I think the U.S. in general romanticizes warfare and combat in our veteran communities. So it was just something that always kind of played in my head. And if you were to walk around my neighborhood as a kid, literally every single neighbor of mine were all veterans, of some regard. So the DC area is just kind of, just this ecosystem of every single branch, from Homeland Security to Marine Corps. So, it was something that it was always in the back of my head. And I think it's also like a what is it? Like a safe proof. What is it? What do they call it? Like a fail safe. Yeah, fail safe. Because I didn't really apply myself in high school, and I would think to myself, well, if all hell goes loose, I can just join the Army and they'll pay for my college. So I used to so it was always kind of like my scapegoat. If I didn't have any other opportunities, I figured I'd join the military.
Yeah, it's definitely, the military in general is a good backup plan for a lot of people. And I hate that, like, that it gets a stigma that it's like, well, you couldn't do anything else, so you joined the military kind of deal. There are people that do that, and that is kind of an option, but there's a ton of people that join it just for the love of country. They want to do it. And like, I remember my first platoon sergeant was an infantry guy, and he came in and he had a bachelor. He was an infantry enlisted dude, and he had a bachelor's degree in electric engineering. And I was like, why'd you join the Marine Corps? And he's like, I got bored, man. I was working in a cubicle doing fucking office bullshit, and there's a war going on. So I was like, hey, you know what? I'm going to give this a go. And then when I get out, I'll use my GI Bill to go back and get my master's degree and hang out with college chicks. And I'm like, all right, dude, that's cool. But it's like, it's funny because it's such a spectrum of people. It's definitely a reflection of society, of people that join the military. And like you, I also, my dad was in the Army as well. And growing up, I actually had a ghillie suit that I made and everything from like an old set of camis and all that. This is exactly what you're talking about. So that's pretty funny.
Yeah, no, I played all the time. And to reiterate, I know that there are tons of people who join out of patriotism and love of country. But I don't like to give that perception. Like, I joined because I was a lost kid. My dad died right out of 4 days after graduation. And 2 weeks later, I was sent off to Fort Benning, Georgia. After telling my recruiter that I scored high on the ASVAB. I could have got any job I wanted to in the military. So I was going to do satellite communications, go to Fort Huachuca, be stationed in Fort Huachuca, moonlight on the side. I had like options for my GI Bill. Admitted to smoking weed one time within 6 months, and they took my security clearance and told me the only jobs I had left were a truck driver or cook. I said, well, the hell with that. Like, I'm not going back to my hometown. So I literally told the lady right there at Fort Lee, Virginia MEPS, that I wanted to go infantry. And she looked at me, she goes, you do realize we're at a time of war, don't you? I said, yes, ma'am. And she's like, can you leave tomorrow? I said, yeah, that'll work. So I went home, told my mom and sister. And next day I was shipped off to Fort Benning, Georgia. And 6 months later, I was in Iraq after basic. So that's crazy. I was very anomaly in the soldier community because I was a replacement soldier coming out of basic. I went in, lied to my recruiter, helped me pass a drug test. And I got in there and all the jobs were ripped away. And it was just like, well, I guess I can follow my father's footsteps. But I think it was always in my DNA that I was going to come across a battlefield some way or another. Both my mother's sides are Native American Apache. So we just have warrior mentality and warrior blood in my DNA. My best friend in the military, his uncle was the founder of the Smurfs. He was a trust fund baby. He had over like 6 million or something like this that he was one semester away from graduating college, and his best friend was killed overseas, and he dropped out of college, joined the military, and his uncle cut him off because he was so livid. So I do have people that have fought for the ultimate sacrifice and love of country and the patriotism aspect. So everybody has there's a wide spectrum, like you said, of people who join and who are part of the veteran community.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. What was it like going from, living in Stafford? I mean, when you're around that kind of military, you're around military people a lot, veterans and stuff like that. I think it gives you a better idea of what you're getting yourself into. No one ever really knows until they get there, but there's some guys that join and have no idea what they're getting themselves into and don't realize that, like, dude, the government owns you now, that's the end of the day, the government owns you. If they tell you to be here at this time, at this date, you're going to be there. So I think that's probably a good thing that you had that background. Did that help make it a little easier to join and like transition into that military lifestyle?
I didn't come from, like, my father was military, like high and tight, no tattoos, no earrings, bro. I'm tatted out, pierced. Like, as soon as he died, I fell far as hell I could from that tree. But no, not at all. I had nobody telling me what I was doing. I didn't grow up in a household where it was like I had education. My father was a Vietnam vet, so like when I joined, I was like surrounded by all these ROTC kids coming in and everybody who had like prepped for this stuff. And I literally walked into the recruiter station 3 days before this, and I was gonna go Air Force because I heard they had better benefits, but they're on lunch break. So I walked across the hall and went into the Army. And within 2 days, I was on a bus to Fort Benning, Georgia. So I like singing like all these songs, like we were just like people were like on the bus prepared, like prepping themselves, and I'm sitting here like I get to 30th AG, I think is what it's called down in Benning. But I had to piss so bad, I just walked up to the first guy. I was like, "Hey man, where's the bathroom?" He's like, "You need to stand at parade rest when you're fucking talking to an NC." I'm like, "God damn, bro, like I fucked up." Like I don't know what the hell I just fucking did. I just had to take a piss, man. But yeah, I didn't really have any idea, or I have like this flashback when I was in high school, like 2000. I graduated 2006. So the war in Afghanistan, 9/11 happened when I was in 8th grade. So I'm 11, and obviously after that, the wars kicked off. But coming home and just seeing like, oh, Fox News, war in Iraq, and it was just always like this little asterisk or this little message I would always hear, like, oh, war in Iraq. But I never divulged time or really went to study it or understood the concept or why we were even over there. So like fast forward when I joined the military, like I really was aloof. I was a kid. I was 18 years old. You know, I was smoking weed and chasing girls and forging report cards to graduate. So yeah, like I didn't really think big term or what I was really dedicating my life to. Again, like I kind of told you, it was just like that fail-safe plan that I felt would give me a step up in my life, but also like an honorable outlet when I came back home, people wouldn't be like, "Oh, what the fuck have you been doing with your life?" No, they'd be like, they'd give me some respect because I had a uniform on, and that's what I saw, and that's what I adapted to. So, yeah, man, I'd had 27 months of combat in a 4-year contract, so I was stop loss. Yeah, I was infantry. I was stop loss. I did a 15-month tour in Iraq during the surge, in Sadr City, in Baghdad during the hottest years. And then I went, obviously, to Afghanistan and survived what is known as the bloodiest battle in Afghanistan, Cop Keating. So, you know, 2 Purple Hearts, Bronze Star Medal of Valor later. After my 4-year stop loss was up, I said, the hell with this. I had to get out. But that's just
I got what I needed out of this. This is good for me. So were you 11 Bravo then?
Hell no. I joined thinking I was going to be 11 Bravo. And then I get to basic training at Fort Benning, and my platoon my company's 4 platoons, yeah. One was 18 X-rays, they call them SF babies. The other 2 were 11 Bravos, and they had 1 platoon of Charlies. And so I had no idea that you had to ask for that on your contract. Bro, I was like a standout athlete, like I was like fit. I could shoot, bro. I was a soldier, bro. And I went there, and I would talk to my recruiter, and that one day I was like, "Hey, I want a sniper contract. I want to go SF, all this." He's like, "Oh yeah, bro, you just got to be a PT stud, and they'll pick you out in basic training." That did not happen, bro. I got sent to an 11 Charlie platoon. I didn't even know what a Charlie was, and so I'm just sitting there like, man, I thought I was gonna be infantry, and told my recruiter, or told my platoon sergeant, I was like, "Hey, man, like, when are you all gonna start recruiting for Ranger, for RIP, and all this?" Like, my recruiter told me I could stand out, like I was the best PT in my platoon. He just starts laughing at me. He's like, "That motherfucker lied to you, dumbass."
Nope.
Shit. I get back from Iraq, bro. I was an E4 promotable. I made my 5 in 3 years because I maxed out on awards on wartime. So I got back from Iraq on my 30 days leave. I went right back to that recruiter station, about to give that E7 a piece of my fucking mind. I was like, "Where's that little redhead motherfucker at?" And sure as shit, he got out the Army. I was like just another number to push to meet his quota, and he had retired. I was, you know, it was a rude awakening after I came back as a combat vet, and I wanted to go because that dude had no combat patch, no nothing, you know, and just lied to my ass as a kid. Could have at least told me like how it was gonna be, but he didn't. So, you know,
that's crazy. It's not uncommon, I guess. I think now it's harder probably for recruiters to lie to kids because there's so much information out there. Like, it used to be like when I joined in 2006 as well. It used to be like, if you wanted to know something, you had to like find a book. You had to go to the library or you had to find a documentary or something like that. Like the internet, like the information on the internet was pretty sparse. The internet was still pretty new, newish for most consumers at the time. So, but now there's so many like Instagram pages, YouTube channels, podcasts, you can, I think some people go into the military knowing the exact job they want to do and like the exact unit they want to be in. You know what I'm saying? This unit has a storied history. They follow the Instagram history page or whatever. Pages like there's a page called Goons Up. They do a really good job of showing like all the different like infantry jobs and different units and stuff that do that. There's one. I don't know, but you know what I'm saying? Like there's just so much information out there that I think guys walk in to a recruiter and are like, hey, this is the job I want. I want to see the contract. I've seen enough videos on podcasts and stuff of guys saying they got screwed over by their recruiter. I want to see it in writing. This is what I'm getting. So,
my recruiter took me to a Rite Aid to buy a blocker for my drug test. Like during this time, they were just letting everybody in. Apparently. Oh, like, yeah, it was. When I go across the country and speak, I've spoken at over 40 universities, Fortune 500 companies. I always get asked this. And I'm like, do your research. Like if it's something you want to, if you're going to commit your life into this craft, into this field, make sure you go in with a plan. Like I didn't go in with the plan and they saw me coming from a mile away. So it's good to know. And I mean, you just enlightened me on how much more information is out there to attain for, the next generation coming up to be soldiers. And I hope people are utilizing the assets that are out there because I didn't have any. I was just a young kid, went in. Next thing I know, I'm 6 months later in Baghdad, jumping from rooftop to rooftop. So
it's crazy, man. It's interesting to take a gamble like that when you're young, and I think it's something that more kids ought to do. Not necessarily like not go in not knowing anything, but seek out an adventure, seek out something outside of like your hometown. Even like the good thing about the military is, you could do 4 years and then go back home and do whatever it is that you want to do. But just get away and see something different for a little bit and come back, rather than, I'm sure, I know people that have never really left my hometown, they've never gone anywhere. They occasionally go to like Florida or something on vacation, but outside of that, where have they been? What have they seen? And I've been lucky enough to have been over 15 countries, like just getting to see these different cultures and different aspects of life and just, I don't know, life experiences that the military gives you. It's pretty unique and you're getting paid to do it. Obviously there's downsides to the military. But that is what it is, so let's talk about how was you're talking about, you went from starting basic training to 6 months later, you're in Iraq. How was the mortarman training and stuff that you did prior to deploying? Like did you feel like you were ready? And did you roll into Iraq as like a individual augment, like you went by yourself and attached to a unit and you were there? Or did you get attached to a unit and then right as they were deploying, you guys left together?
We're already there. So I replaced, literally, it's, man, weird as shit. Cause like I replaced a soldier that was killed. So, I mean, I got to the unit a month into their deployment and I was sleeping in the same kid's bed that had just been killed. Alan B. James from Texas. He was 21 when he got killed. I never met him, obviously. But yeah, I had orders to go to Hawaii, and then 2 days before I graduated basic, they sent me and 2 other kids to Fort Carson, where we went for 1 week to get our issuing gear, and then we went straight to Iraq to meet our platoon that was already at Fob Rustamiyah in Baghdad. So yeah, it was like really, really quick for me. I mean, really, AIT is 14 weeks, or basic training is 9 weeks, and then do like 5 weeks AIT or something like this. I think I did 5 weeks of the mortar training, FTX, it was like whatever, like just standard infantry shit. Like you can only learn so much in infantry school. Mm-hmm. But I didn't even touch a mortar when I got to Iraq, bro. I was all dismounted. I was light infantry. So, I mean, we were rolling around in Humvees. We would stay at a JSS, which is a joint security site, for a week at a time. So I lived inside of Sadr City at a police joint station with 2 other platoons, and we would stay out there for a week at a time, and we'd get rotated out. So the only time I saw a mortar in Iraq was when we do our Connex. We clean our Connexes out, kind of shit. Like do inventory, 100% inventory. That's the only time I ever saw a mortar tube in Iraq. And that being said, I wasn't prepared to clear houses like I was clearing. Like, I mean, my day one, they put me in a gunner turret, and I was like, what? You know, like I've only been to the range on a 50 cal. I was still trying to figure out headspace and timing type shit.
Mm-hmm.
And next thing I know, day one in country, my section sergeant, Barella, he's like, has a piece of paper. He's like, look, man, and literally his other soldier was just killed. And he's like, look, man, you got to tell me something about you, bro, because I don't know shit. And if you die, I gotta tell your family something. So literally first in country, I was on mission. So I didn't even have any chance to like really get my feet wet, as they say, or go to a unit and get coached up or trained or anything like that. Like I was literally at E2, graduated basic as an E3, and then shipped off to Iraq and came home in E4. E4 with on the verge of being promoted. Like I had enough points. So yeah, I really was not prepared for the combat that I saw in Iraq, and it was like city warfare. Like in Baghdad, bro, like we were like high value targets. We'd roll around with JTEX with us at the security site, dismount in the city all at nighttime. So yeah, I mean, I was a grunt, man. Like, yeah, I mean, it was cool. I mean, I did a lot of cool stuff and saw a lot of things, and also a lot of scary stuff. I lost like 12 people in our deployment, that unit. So yeah, you're exposed to a lot of stuff early on. And I came home at 19 and a half. I wasn't even 20 years old when I came home. And so like, I was scared for my life coming back. I wanted a handgun. So I bought an illegal handgun kind of stuff. Like it just really supported me coming back, man. Like, cause you feel some type of way that you're fighting for people's freedoms and you can't even legally have a beer or whatever kind of shit. Right. You have that towards society, that they call you a hero, like, but I didn't feel like I was a hero. Like, so yeah, it was difficult. It was a difficult time, like being in the military at a young age and like being able to, fight and then come home and feel restricted or scared for your own safety. Like that's a whole nother journey, man. It's like my unit in Fort Carson, Colorado, 4th ID, we're one of the most like battered, like we had, I think like 4 or 5 murders, domestic violences, drive-bys. My bunkmate in Iraq slit a girl's throat. He's doing life right now in prison in Michigan.
Jesus.
Marco. Yeah, man, we were all messed up. And why? Oh, well, let's send these boys on a 15-month deployment and see what the fuck happens. Like we were part of a hectic time where they were just like pushing soldiers out, man. And we were just, myself included, was just a replacement soldier. So, I had a very different optic and perspective when I was after my time and going through my time, especially talking to other people. I was like, damn, bro, I was literally just a little political pawn in some regard. Like this, all right, we need you here, go. I already had orders to go to Afghanistan before we even got back from a 15-month tour in Iraq. So when I got home, I did sniper school, did air assault, mortar M-lock type shit. But within 12 months, we were already sent back to Afghanistan. So I was literally back-to-back deployments.
That's such a disservice that the Army does to people like that. To take a guy and within, like you said, 6 months, you're in combat, straight off the street into combat in 6 months. Like, bro, the Army is so huge. How are they shorthanded at that point to that where they have to send a guy like you that knows nothing off to a deployment for 15 months? Like the Marine Corps, a lot of people shit on the Marine Corps, and obviously everyone hates, when you're in the Marine Corps, in the military, you hate your unit, you hate your higher ups and stuff like that kind of deal a lot of times. But one thing I will always say that they did right was that we only did 7-month deployments. If you were there with a like higher headquarters, like regimental headquarters or division headquarters, you did a year deployment. But if you were like a lower level, like if you were an infantry battalion, you were only there for 7 months. Could it get extended? Yeah, but most of the time it didn't. And I always saw that the Army was sending guys out for a year to 15 months. And I'm like, that is so fucked up, man. Like, that's such a long time to be away from home and be away from everything, and especially when you look at, so the average infantryman, right, does 12 to 15 months in the Army. But when the Rangers go on a deployment, they do like 3-month deployments because they know like, hey, this is hardcore stuff that they're doing. This is an intense, they're in warfare. This is like not good for them mentally to be here and be doing this constantly. I don't know how they can justify sending a straight leg infantryman that is in combat. That is, you said you lost like 12 guys on that deployment for a year, for 15 months, and I know you get like a 2-week R&R or some shit like that, but that's just it. that is such a disservice to everybody. There's no reason why a guy should come off the street and be in combat within 6 months. He should come off the street, go to boot camp, go to his MOS training, and then get to a unit and kind of spun up on things. Because you know as well as I do, when you're in MOS school, you're learning like the basics of your job, but there's so much more to the job that you don't learn until you get to your unit and these guys that have been doing it for a while teach you. And it's just such a disservice.
100%. Bro, even furthermore, you just reminded me, I didn't even take leave so it was a 13.5-month deployment for me. I didn't take any leave. So I had to go a straight year in Baghdad, because what happened was when I came out of basic, just put in perspective, when I graduated, everybody goes to university, I joined the Army. And by the time Christmas came around, that Christmas 2006, yeah, graduated 2006. So Christmas 2006, all my friends are coming home from their first semester of college. I'm deploying. Mm-hmm. So I was already where my friends were getting done with their first semester of school. And then on top of that, they sent me. So what happens is basic training, like you come out of basic with like a week of leave or something like this. It's something like very petty. But in a perfect scenario, you go to your unit, train, like you said, and then you go deploy. Well, since I was a replacement soldier, I got sent to Carson and sent off so fast right away. They sent me home for a week before I deployed. They're like, no, you have to go home. It put me in the hole. I had no leave, and they made me take leave before I deployed. And so I literally went to Iraq with -7 days of leave, and I declined leave. I didn't have any leave to take, so I had to do a 13-month deployment, and I didn't take any leave. I did a full year straight in combat every single day. Fucked me up, man. It really did. Yeah. But like you said, it's unfortunate that a lot of these soldiers, we have the assets and capability or what have you. Maybe we didn't have a lot of infantry soldiers back then, but yeah. I mean, my platoon was stationed in Korea, and they went from Korea to Ramadi. And then they went to Ramadi straight, didn't go back to Korea. They went straight to Carson, back to Fort Carson, Colorado, and then deployed back to Baghdad. And that's when I met them. And then we went back to Afghanistan. So that 361, bro, those boys went through hell, man. Like we lost a lot of people in all of our deployments, that unit. So it's unfortunate that, and now the psychological effect that has compounded years later. I mean, I have another 7 or 8 friends that have killed themselves since I've been out. 8? Oh, Jacob shot him. He killed himself. That was pretty fucked up. Yeah, so it's like I was on a 10-year case study with the Army when I got out. They did a 10-year evaluation study to see how I'd be. It ended like 2 years ago. So it's like, I was definitely in a unique position and sent into a lot of combat at a very young age. I'm fortunate. I'm 36 now, so fortunate to still be here.
Bro, you don't look 36 at all. You look like you're in your 20s. You look so young, man. It didn't wear on you at all.
Oh, man. I hope not. I mean, it did. I'm chasing these younger women now is what it is. It keeps me honest.
That's trouble, too. Yeah, so, dude, it's just so crazy, man. I can't believe, again, the size of the Army, the amount of money that goes into the Army. I don't know if maybe it's like we have too many support people or what, but there is no reason for you guys to be deploying like that. I know it was at the height of the war and the surge and everything, but when you look at the overall size of the military and to send you right off the bat into combat and then turn around and send you a year later for another year-long deployment, a year plus, because it could be 12 to 15 months. And I don't know, from what I've heard, a lot of times it was never just a year. It was always extended. It always seemed like it was getting extended at least a month or two on top of that year. So it's just mind-blowing for me to hear that and to have seen it happen. I was so glad. My dad was in the Army, and he wanted me to join the Army when I said I was going to join the military. And I decided to join the Marines, just to do something different. And I'm so glad I joined the Marines, because I will say there are cases of of the same thing kind of happening where guys get to a unit and they deploy pretty quickly after that. But for the most part, there was a decent amount of dwell time. Certain jobs, I was a JTAC in the Marines, and I knew other JTACs that were. It was basically the group of guys before me. They would deploy. And when they would be getting ready to come home from that 7-month deployment, they would be notified of when their next deployment was. It was such a high demand MOS that it was like, hey, this guy is going to deploy a bunch. He's just kind of known within that job field. So it wasn't uncommon for guys in my job field to like get to 8 years or 12 years and be like, I'm good, I'm done, that was cool, because it's such a high tempo. But you kind of know that. But that wasn't the norm, you know. That wasn't like the norm for a unit to deploy and then be back for 6 months or a year and then deploy right again. You know, like, I don't know. I mean, again, I know it happened, but not to the same extent that it happened in the Army. And it doesn't surprise me that that causes issues. Like, I don't know, man. It's so fucked up. It's so fucked up.
I'm a 4-year window slot, bro. Half of my platoon that I met up with had a deployment before me and a year after me. So I have buddies that were in this unit for 5 years, 6 years, and deployed 4 times in 5 years. Like some real, and a lot of them are suffering from a lot of mental cases, post-traumatic stress, issues with the VA now. Like, there's just this whole, like, you know, like I said, just this compound that has happened in the generations after that. Like, I've worked with called TAPS out of DC, which puts veterans like myself into relationships with kids who have lost their father. And so, man, like that, I thought that was going to be like really good for me, but shit, it just like restruck the chord. That was like, damn, all my buddies who were killed, now their sons are like grown ass men and they all want vengeance. Most of them want vengeance. It's like very, very few and far between that any of them are like, oh, whatever it might be, you know. It's just, it's both. I'm sure it's the same of all the people I've killed in Iraq and Afghanistan. You know, this next generation coming up wants revenge. Mm-hmm. It's the same. You know, I've seen. It sucks, man. Like, you know, one of the songs I wrote that it's on my YouTube. It's just like it talks about it. It's right. It's like, you know, the older I get, the more difficult it is to live sometimes, because it's like, man, like life is beautiful and precious, but I lost so many friends at such a young age. In total, I have 18 bullets on the belt fed tattoo. So I have 18 friends that were killed in combat, not including the ones that were committed suicide or died thereafter. So, like, you know, it's a heavy world to be in. So, you know, I'm thankful that I'm still here and kicking on. But yeah, man, it was a rough road, and the Army really didn't give a shit. I didn't feel like they were just pushing people out, like, like, come enlist. If you make it, you make it. And here's another crazy thing too. Between my deployments from Iraq and Afghanistan, I went through the RIP program finally. So I went through RIP program, top of my class. I wanted to go to Ranger School. Sergeant Major's like, sure thing. So Rodriquez, go to Ranger School. I'm supposed to leave. We have 3 months before our deployment. I have 61 days of hell to go to Ranger School.
Now, hold on, real quick. Was this RIP to go to Ranger Battalion or just Ranger School, the basic Ranger School?
RIP. So I had to qualify through RIP to go through Ranger School, and then I was going to leave to go to a battalion. Like, okay. I wanted to get out. I wanted to go SF. I wanted to go through Ranger School and then SF. And, bro, I do all the RIP qualifications, get my things in order. I'm like squared away, ready to go. My sergeant major pulls my papers and gives them to an incoming officer out of West Point. He's like, Rodriquez, you know, we just don't want you to have to recycle or reclass, and you might have to miss some of this deployment, so we need you. So you got me fucked up, bro. So they pulled my Ranger contract and sent me on this deployment. I was E4 promotable, but I couldn't get to a board because I was stationed in a combat outpost Keating, which is in the middle of fucking nowhere. Mm-hmm. They had to put me in a battlefield promotion, bro. I was put in for a battlefield promotion. Like, that shit doesn't exist. Got my Ranger contract pulled, put in for battlefield promotion, and ended up getting shot in Afghanistan. After that deployment, I went to my sergeant major, and I was getting out, and he's like, Rodriquez, you know, you'd be a really good soldier. You'd help out a lot of, you know, you have a lot of experience. I looked this dude right in his eyes. I said, all due respect, you've been in 20 years. I've been in less than 4, and I've been deployed more times than you have. I was like, you got me fucked up if you think I'm staying in here longer. He was like, you know, all the power to you, man. Wish you all the best. I was done after that. I was like, y'all fuck me on leave, Ranger contract, all this other bullshit. And like, nah, I'm done. I'm cool with this. I'm going to get out. And I just turned 21. So I was like, yeah, I'm ready to get out.
That's so crazy, dude. It's like, you know, everybody reaches their breaking point. You know what I'm saying? And when something like that happens, like, it's like when you go in and you feel like you're giving your best and you're trying and, you know, and like, and you're asking for something like going to a school. I had the same kind of situation. I wanted to go to WTI. I was a JTAC evaluator, and the next step was to go to WTI. And that's like the highest level JTAC in the Marines. And I was like, you know, if I get that school, then that's cool. I can be a JTAC for the rest of my career. and I got to a unit that was getting ready to deploy, and I asked them, I was like, hey, can I go to WTI? You know, I know you guys have a seat, right? And they're like, well, I don't know. And I'm like, well, you do. I know you do because I've been tracking it. And they told me, they're like, it's an officer's course. I'm like, no, it's not. And then they ended up just not sending anybody. You know, I was like, the fact that you guys that you did that was like the breaking point for me. I was like, fuck this, I'm done. Like, I give so much back to you guys. Like, this will be my 5th deployment. I've done so many field ops. I've done so many favors to go on field ops to help out a unit for training or, you know, evaluating their dudes, whatever. And you guys can't do me, like, throw me a solid, like, fucking send me to this one school that I've asked to go to. Like, I don't ask to go to any schools. Like, this is the one school that I've asked to go to. And you guys can't do that. Like, fuck this, man. Like, it's got to be a give and take relationship. You can't just sit here and take my fucking time, take my fucking sanity, and not give anything back, you know? And
my father was...
Go ahead.
Sorry, cut you off.
No, go ahead.
The same way he was stationed in Berlin, Germany. My sister was born in Bamberg in Berlin, Checkpoint Charlie. And he didn't want to come back to the States. And they're like, no, the hell with that. You're going back to Fort Bliss. He's like, fuck you, I ain't. And so he got out too. It was like the same thing. And it's just like, you only can take so much, like, of like what you want to do, where you want to be. And for me, it was the same thing, man. Like, I just was like, I can't do this anymore, bro. Like, I'm over it. And I really felt like I was going to, the Army needed me. I really felt that way. Like, I was like, I'm a good ass soldier. Like, I'm squared away. I don't got any issues. I'm PT stud. Like, I want to do this. Bravo 4 bro. I'm like, I'm a soldier. It's like, and I just kept seeing I had dumbasses ahead of me.
Yeah.
I was just like, keep putting up with dumbasses that were fucking not as squared away as me, or not as, I don't want to say elite, but just weren't in the same like frame as me. And then they were the gatekeepers to where I wanted to go. And I was just like, fuck out of here, man. Like, you know, I'm maxed out on my awards. I'm squared the fuck away. Like, I'm the only mortar with a sniper rifle. Like, what else do you want me to do? I have 27 months of combat. I made my E5 in 3 years. Like, I don't want to be here anymore. And they still get Kevin. I was like, yeah, I'm good. Fuck off.
I remember on my last deployment, we had this fucking guy who was a complete moron. He was a staff sergeant. I'm like, how did this guy make it to staff sergeant? You know, he's just a small MOS. I'm not going to call out his MOS or his name or anything because that'd be fucked up. But he had a small MOS, so he was continuing to get promoted. And it's like nobody is putting on his paperwork that he's an idiot. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. They're just continuing to promote this moron. And now he's in charge of people. And I remember he was such an idiot, they wouldn't let him answer the phone because they were afraid of what he would say just answering the phone in the office. And then on that deployment, at the same time they wouldn't let him answer the phone, he got selected to get promoted to gunnery sergeant. And I'm like, how is this fucking idiot in charge? You know what I'm saying? And he would walk around and be like, I'm a gunny, you're a staff sergeant, da, 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 da. And it's like, fuck you, dude. You're a fucking idiot. You know what I'm saying? It's just, when you see that kind of shit, you're like, how does the incompetence keep getting promoted? And now this guy is somehow in charge of me or has some kind of sway over my life. Like, you know, it's like, fuck it. It's not worth it anymore, you know? And it's like, I think if the military would come around and stop promoting these morons and, you know, give a little bit back to the guys that are putting in their time, that want to be good at their job, that, you know, I enjoyed my job. I love doing it. I love being around the guys. I love going to the field. I love doing all the stuff, but it's like, it became not worth it. I had a kid. It became not worth it for me to not, I mean, you're telling me you want me to deploy on ship for 7 months when this is my 5th deployment in like 6 years, 7 years or whatever it was. Like, get the fuck out of here, man. Like, I need to spend some time with my kid. Give me something back. You know, if I'm giving you all this of my time and my you know, all this, like, where's something back? And it's, the military loses so many good people because they don't want to give anything back to these people like you. They should have let you go to this school. They let some officer that hasn't done anything yet come in and take that seat. Like, what the fuck, man? You know, why, what is that 15 months in Iraq? Was it not worth anything? You know, did I not, you know, prove that I'm willing to be here? And you're trying to better yourself, you know? And it's like, and bettering yourself betters the organization. And they just rip that away and go, sorry, bud, we need you to deploy again. Like, fuck it. Send the officer, man. You know, like, I don't know, man. It's so frustrating to hear these stories.
Nah, it is. And like, yeah, that's why I got out. I just looked at it. I was like, you know what? I can use my GI Bill. I was going to say, did you ever see the movie, The Outpost?
I did. I read the book and then I saw the movie a few years ago. It's been a little bit, but yeah.
Well, I play myself in that movie.
Yeah.
Jake Tapper's a good friend of mine. But that our CO, His name ain't. They Bowers is what they think what they have him in the movie, but it's something else. I won't call his name out either in real life. But same shit, man. He's a PT. He was on profile for the entire year we were back in Garrison. Never saw this dude exercise once. Never saw him go out to the range with us. We get to Keating. Me and Romashare are trying to put claymores out, and he won't let us shoot Willie P. He won't shoot. We're just like, I was like, I'm just thinking to myself, like, I should not fucking be here. Like, way out, and now I'm stuck with this fucking guy who's never seen combat, who's been pushed along and checked off every single box to get his, you know, to get on his where he's tracking towards major. He's a captain at the time, and I was just sitting there like, fuck this. Like, this guy, these people are gonna get me killed. And bold, I was put in an undefensible location. Like, that
shit's crazy, dude.
My way out. So it was just like, yeah. I was just like, when I got back from that deployment, man, it couldn't be clearer for me. Like, it was good. I learned a lot. You know, there's a lot, you know, I'm thankful for what I had, the opportunities, the people I met, the experiences I had. But yeah, I'm not going to be in this business for 20 years. That is for damn sure.
Yeah, I mean, one last example, and then I'll quit bitching. Like, I remember I got back from my deployment. I went on my last deployment. I didn't want to go on that deployment. I told them, I was like, if you send me on this, I'm getting out. They sent me on it, and I tried to do the whole WTI thing, and I was like, well, maybe I'll make the best of the situation and try to go to WTI, and then whatever. I'll do the deployment and then come back, and I'll just go be a JTech forever. And that got ripped away from me, and that was, like I said, the final straw. And then I remember I came back, and within like 3 days of coming back from deployment, my old ops chief at Anglico called me and was like, hey, man, you want to come back to Anglico? Come back to your old team? And I'm like, fuck yeah, dude, that'd be awesome, you know? And he's like, cool. Well, if you do, you're deploying next week. I'm like, dude, I just got off ship. I've been home for 3 days. Like, fuck that, man. And it was like, that was the kind of thing. It was like, you guys are just fucking using me. Like, you're trying to make it sound like you're hooking me up. Like, hey, you want to come back and be the team chief again? Sure. Okay, well, you're going to deploy in like 3 days to go to Iraq or go to, you know, I'm like, dude, no, man, fuck this, man. Like, quit using me. I'm on my way out then, you know, like, it's just, it gets old, man. It's like, fucking take care of the dudes, you know, the guys that put in the time and want to be there and are trying to be good at their job and trying to, you know, just be all around good, you know, like, quit fucking them, and they'll probably stick around, and the whole force will probably end up being better. But like I said, I'll quit bitching about my stuff. Let's talk about that. You know, you get word you're going to Afghanistan. What kind of training did you guys do to prep for Afghanistan? And then tell us how the training was to get ready for it. And then what were you shocked by how much different than Iraq it was?
God, yeah. It was so different. Well, firstly, we were in Carson, so we were able to train in the mountains, which was nice because we actually went in the Hindu Kush Mountains. Was actually lower elevation, so that was a really good adjustment. But we weren't prepared for where we were at. Like, you know, we were on this desolate outpost, like outside of our 155 howitzers. And then even like I went to MLOC, which is Mortar Leader Course School. I think is also in Benning. Yeah, I was in Benning for that too. So like you come out, like I went on deployment like weapons expert on every single mortar system. I'd hung hundreds and thousands of rounds training. But then when we got to our base, we were the bottom of like a valley with like 3 mountains surrounded on either side of it. Actually, really all sides of us, but one was like a valley out. But yeah, we had to, like, I think normal aiming post sights for a mortar is like 50 yards, and then 100 yards is the second one, something like this. I might be blanking on it. But our mortar pit was no bigger than, I'll show you my studio apartment here, but it's like, it was small, man. It not even, it was smaller than half a basketball court kind of thing, in a circular kind of thing. And that's including a 120 millimeter system where we had our stuff, and then where we slept, all in this like it was carved out in the side of this mountain. Like we slept in like a hooch, like a cave essentially. And our aiming poles were 10 feet, 15 feet in front of us, like stuck in sandbags up, and we had 2 on either side. So what I had trained for and what I had saw and what I thought I was going to observe was not what it was like. I mean, my first day in country, you fly in at night. So we took the Chinook in, and I literally got, I had such fortunate luck to be in the shit of the shit. But we land in country in Afghanistan. We take a bird to a place called Fob Bostic, and we're going to be at Bostic, like doing the ride in, ride out for 17 Cav. I think they were out of Fort Bliss, something like this. So we thought we were going to be there for like a month. They come to me, they're like, hey, you're on the first bird out tonight. I was like, what the fuck? Like, I literally just got in country like not even 8 hours ago. And within 12 hours, I was on a bird to Keating. And we go at night, nods are on. I'm looking down at like this putting green, like this little putting green on either side is like river flowing. We got this sling load. I'm like, where the fuck are we even at? Sleep in this hooch. Next morning, sun comes up, completely surrounded by three sides. Not even 10 minutes later, we get attacked. I was in flip-flops my very first firefight. I was in flip-flops and PT shorts. Didn't have any. I had my M4, my M21, the sniper rifle. I come out with that. I hadn't even been given like a combat load for magazines or anything. That shit. I had to go to the ammo point at the base that morning to get my shit. So I literally came out in PT shorts, flip-flops, and a sniper rifle with like 15 rounds on me for my first firefight, day one. I was like, fucking hell. Like, and then the second question, how different was it from Iraq? Bro, I was mounted in Iraq. Like, yeah, we did a lot of clearing, but my friends that were killed in Humvees by EEDs and EFPs, and fucking Snell was killed by a sniper, but like real urban type shit. And then I get to Afghanistan, it's like, bro, these dudes are fighting you toe to toe. Like my first firefight, I damn near killed an A&A guy. I didn't realize we had A&A infiltrated with us on our base. And I just saw this clearly not American guy with a AK-47 barrel melting, and bro, I damn near shot his face off, bro. He's lucky I didn't have time to shoot a second one because first one missed him, and then they started yelling like, no, friendly. I was like, damn, bro, because he actually ducked behind a rock. I could see his peeping up and up, so I couldn't really get a good shot at it, so I tried to ricochet it off the rock he was on, like hit it down, and he came up with his hands up. I was like, oh shit, like that's A&A. I was like, well, y'all need to give people heads up before you fucking tell them about to get in a firefight, bro. I'm out in the middle of Afghanistan. Like, dudes looks like he's one of them. Sorry,
bro. You've been there for 12 hours. What are you supposed to do, you know?
Really, sun has just come up. I'm getting shot at. Yeah. And that was like that was the precursor. Because actually rewind, before we even stepped foot in Afghanistan, coming home from Iraq, we had been told a story that our sister platoon, Fritchie, they had killed like 6 guys at the wire with hand grenades. And we were like, who the fuck is still throwing hand grenades? Like, what the fuck? Like, where are we going? Mm-hmm. And so then we get attacked, and I'm just sitting there fighting. And then on October 3rd, I threw like over 50 hand grenades. I had a Mark 19 barrel full of hand grenades that I was literally throwing out of my window, like out of my hooch, cooking them as well, like cooking them 1 1000, 2 1000, 3, then throwing them. Like, so I was like, okay, yeah, they're right. We were throwing some hand grenades. But yeah, Keating and Afghanistan was so much different. Like, it was just, you couldn't fight a fair fight. Everything was uphill. The mortar systems, we had a 60 and a 120, so I could handheld and shoot the 60s within, 360 radius, 7,400 mil. But I could easily defend and shoot the mountains that we could see. But man, it's not how you train. It's not, you don't even shoot mortars that way. Like everything was so unorthodox of how we fought, how we would do our carpet lining as well, like traverse and search missions with white phosphorus. So we'd shoot white phosphorus first, do a whole line of white phosphorus, and then come in and hit it with 3 to 6 meter air burst with HE. Just disperse all the HE or all the white phosphorus, and we just burn a side of the mountain at a time, because it's just like, you can't really, it's just hard to explain how much fire we would come upon, or how much they would suppress us, or just hit us in the morning or hit us at night, or there'd be, a team of guys over there, or a team of guys over there. So it's like, you only have 3 mortarmen in this pit trying to cover a 360-degree terrain, and you're at the bottom of 3 mountains. So it was really hard to that's why a lot of the videos you see is I'm on the 240 first, bro. I didn't have time, bro. I had several times where the mortar tube was shot, was hit, was pinged, they were dialing. So I couldn't even get to my gun until I put down suppressive fire. And then Thompson would come running out, and my other guys would come running out and get to the 60. But I held down that 240 just to make sure that we could get the guns up and just fire where we needed to, just for suppression, which you don't fucking have a machine gun in a mortar pit, ever. Like that, it doesn't work like that. So the fact that I had a mounted 240 with it was like two posts, like fence posts. So it's like, if you look at if you can imagine looking down at a fence post, the outline is like a little guy like this, but we put 2 of them together, so it made this little square. You can kind of picture 2 posts together in the square, and then the 240 mount fit in that. So it wasn't even military issued stand. Like, no, it was just 2 ammo bags, a 6-foot pole, 2 6-foot posts hammered into ammo cans and wired together to make a little square up top where we could put the mount, the 240 mount, and that was our protection. And we were outside of where everybody else was on the base, so even our LRAS, again, like military 101, you put your indirect fire, your mortars, your howitzers in the middle kind of thing to give everybody else suppressive fire and cover and range. And we were on the outskirts. So when we got overrun, bro, that's why I was throwing hand grenades, because they were literally coming down around us. We could hear them laughing and walking on our roof step, on our rooftop. So I'd come out and shoot, come out, throw grenades. It was hectic, man. But yeah, it was not anything I had trained for, prepared for, or was taught this is how you're supposed to fight combat. Nah, we were in an indefensible location in the low ground. I mean, what else do I need to say to clearly put we were fucked?
Yeah, they fucked you.
And back to the point of, like, I got out because of these dumbasses in charge of gatekeepers. Not only was my CO, my commander at that time, but bro, I then had to register that somebody above him put my ass there. And we've been in this war for like 7 years now, and this is still a fucking operating base. Like, who the fuck is making decisions up there? Like, all of them are dumb.
I read something that some of the officers got reprimanded but it's like, what'd they get? A letter of whatever, you know? It's like multiple dudes got killed, tons of guys got injured. Like, in a situation, I can't imagine what it was like walking out that first morning and looking up and being like, what the fuck? Like, where are we at in this valley? Like, literally the exact opposite of every doctrine, of every, like, known military tactic. Like, you don't ever take the low ground. You take the high ground and you cover the low ground. Not saying that there couldn't be a patrol base or something in low ground, but only if it's supported by the main element on the high ground. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just so crazy that was even looked at and go, yeah, let's do it. Now,
yeah,
it's so crazy. You're talking about, you know, you guys are getting attacked pretty regularly. How good was your resupplies? Because I imagine if you're shooting mortars constantly, then they had to have been bringing in like tons and tons of stuff. Were you getting pretty resupplied pretty regularly?
Once a week, man. Maybe sometimes more. We didn't get mail or anything. It would take over a month to get mail, and we would only get resupplies on ammo. That was the only day at night. So the only resupplies we got at Keating were ammo and food. That was it. And then we'd be like every 1.5 months we'd get like a back order or like a mail slung. And then, like, you know, they drop one off and we'd have like goodies or, you know, finally get some toothpaste or Pop-Tarts. But other than that, man, only ammunition and only food. And the food was MREs. So it wasn't like anything good. But no, we had resupply. We had an ammo point we shot over 2,000 rounds, and I was only there for 4 months. We had an ammo point that had, I think we probably had an additional like 2,000 rounds to go. The 60s, we had about 1,000. But yeah, we had, that's all we got dropped. Now that I think about it, it was fine.
Just ammo. They're like, hey, you're here to fight.
Every sling was either weapons, food, or one time they brought in a water supplier guy. He dropped off like a big old, like, you know, whatever the big machine is to purify the water kind of thing. And that was the only other sling that I ever saw come in. I only got mail 2 times in 5 months at Keating. Everything else was ammo. Man. Everything was always ammo.
That's crazy. How often were you guys, now let's talk about like the tactical, obviously the situation was you guys were in a shitty spot. You got to make the best of it. How often were you guys sending out like foot patrols and stuff like that? Like, how well were you guys trying? I mean, was it even possible to secure? Was it possible to secure the area? Were the fighters, were they attacking from the same places? I know you make, as a fellow fire support guy, I know you're out there making like plan targets and stuff like that. You know, pre-planned targets and things like that. Were the fighters that you were fighting against, Taliban guys, were they always using the same fighting positions, or was it varied? Or, you know, give us like a picture of kind of what the like daily battle rhythm looked like.
Yeah, no. So now that I've been able to like reflect back and all this stuff, but we got hit from everywhere. And so the first few months, like if I would take you through like a chronological like rotation of my camera points, is we would get attacked from the north. right? We get attacked in the morning, and then we would fight, boom, 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 have like pre-plot missions, and then the next day they'd hit us from like the east, and then the next day they'd hit from the south, and then a week later they hit us from the north. So we'd get like dialed in at like 3 to 4 days at a time during we'd fight these groups of Taliban, and then they'd shift on us. And what really come to find out is they were getting our standard operating procedures. They were seeing how we reacted. So all of this fighting was just like to set us up for October 3rd. They were taking pop shots at us. They were hitting us from different locations, seeing how we reacted, seeing where our range of fires were. And so for the first 3 months there, I mean, we got attacked. I don't like to say every day, like, because it's like, oh, that's just like, but I mean, in like one way or another, we were in like 3 to 4 firefights a week. So it really felt like every day, every other day, we were getting shot at, taking pop shots. People were hitting us, taking mortar rounds. B-10 was big. My buddy Jacobs, well, I mean, he was my buddy. He killed himself outlet not too long ago, but hit with a B-10 round, split his face open. Bro, we were taking so much indirect fire from like just different locations. RPGs could come. You could just literally come over the ridge of a mountain, shoot an RPG into our base, and then retreat back, and you wouldn't even be seen. So we would literally get just peppered and pestered for 3 to 5 minutes at a time every other day in some small arms battle. They'd come up, and we'd had pre-plot. So a lot of the times the videos you see, like a lot of times that come out, we were hanging the first 3 rounds of the pre-plot. It's like, hey, that's where they hit us, because we were pre-anticipating. We'd be like, okay, well, they hit us here yesterday. Well, let's leave the gun in between these 2 spots, and we can, if we get hit from there again, we just come out and fire. And so that's what it became, because we were trying to guess where they were going to hit us from next. But what they were doing was they were getting our timing, our movements, how we reacted, if they hit us here, hit us there. And then on October 3rd, when they hit us with the warm of stuff, man, like, that's why the mortar pit, my buddy Thompson was killed first. He was hit by a sniper in the head. And then we were pinned down the entire time. Like, everybody was pinned down. Like, they just had constant barrage, making sure that we could not get any of our guns up. And I was firing the 240 from my kneecaps, bro. I would go up, poke my head up, and as soon as I poke my head up, it ding, 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 ding. They're like, I remember holding down, and there were weeds, actually marijuana too, that was growing. It grows wild out there, but it would grow from between the ammo cans and the HESCO barriers. Like, you just have, like, you know, weeds that grow in there, and I'm hiding behind this, and I have like this vivid, like, slow motion memory, just like looking up as I see the fucking the leaves of the weeds, like, just being mowed, like, and just like mowing, like, the everything around me, ammo cans getting blown up, RPG after RPG. That's how I got strapped. I got strapped on my neck from RPG and both my legs from another RPG when I ran out to go try to drag Thompson back. So we were just completely just pinned in and dialed on. And so, like, to your question, or like how it was just really just them, like, setting us up to see how we were going to react. And then when they came with everything they had on October 3rd, they knew exactly where we were coming from. I mean, they know exactly where we're going to run to. Even Mace and Gallegos that were killed, LRAS 2, where Carter and Larson were at. I mean, that one was every gun truck, every mortar system, everything we had was dialed into an exact like, look, they knew where we were going to be. And so, like, it's pretty shitty once we realized that we were overrun. Like, I mean, I have a vivid memory. I thought everybody was dead in LRAS 2. I'd seen one of the guys get killed. Obviously, Thompson was already dead in the mortar pit with me. And there's guys walking in with their weapons slung, like, just weapons slung coming through the East Valley of where our mortar point was at. I thought everybody was dead. I was like, you fucking kidding me? Because comms were down. They had taken out our generators. We had no comms internally. We had a missing in action. They had dragged the body of Hart, took all his gear off, stripped his clothes off, took his walkie-talkie and hot-mic'd it. So none of us had internal communications. So for like 4 hours, I had no idea where anybody was at. Until the fixed wing and Apaches came in. And then one of the Apaches got shot. They're not shot down, but it got shot. So we had Apaches come in. We're all fucking livid because they did work, bro. Those Apache pilots killed like 100 dudes, man. Like, not even exaggerating. They killed like 100 men down that alley. And we're all like jumping for joy, like, fuck yeah. Next thing we hear, sorry, birds got hit. And they fly together. So as soon as they took that out, bro, we were in another hell for another 3 hours where everybody came back out again, and the weather was too bad to fly. So before we got fixed wings and B-52s and all these A-10 gun runs, man, those first 3.5 hours of that fight, everybody thought everybody was dead. And, like, you know, we were fighting from inside of our sleeping quarters. So it was like a really hectic time to, like, associate what was going on or where they're coming from, but it was from everywhere. And yeah, they just knew what we were doing there. They had been planning for a long time, so pretty situation to be at the bottom of 3 mountains when they're doing that.
Yeah, I can't even imagine, dude. I mean, you see, like, if for those that have seen The Outpost or read the book, like, seeing the movie, if you're not familiar and know that it's a true story, it almost seems like too much. Like, okay, it didn't happen like that. It's like, no way. But knowing that it actually did happen, and you recorded a lot on your own, of different events that happened at that patrol base, it's like, man, I just can't imagine what that was like, dude. I mean, when you thought everybody was dead, were you worried that you were going to get taken as a hostage or taken as like a POW?
I'd kill myself. There's no way in hell they were going to fucking take me alive. I had a chamber ready to kill myself. I had a shotgun laid out, a 9mm, my sniper rifle. I had all my ammo, bucket full of hand grenades. Nope, I was not getting taken alive. I was eating Oreos off my dead friend's body. Like, that's all the food we had up there. Like, and his rigor mortis had kicked in, so I couldn't really drag his body all the way in. I had his body as close as I could to the hooch with ammo cans. I had Oreos on it and extra magazines on his back. Like, I was using his body as support, as fire and cover. They were not going to fucking take me alive. That's for damn sure. No, sir.
That's so crazy, dude.
I really did not think I was going to live. Like, I was not. I'm not afraid to admit now I wasn't scared. No, fuck yeah, I was scared, bro. But I didn't think I wasn't going to surrender or anything like that. Like, it was just like, fucking kill my best friend, man. Like, right in front of me. Like, somebody's got to die. And so they wanted. I was ready to kill all of them.
Does it change when you got to that point where you're like, I'm not making it out of this? Like, everyone's dead, and I'm just gonna fight until they kill me. What happens to your psyche? What happens to your own? A lot of people, you hear about people that have said that before, and they say like almost a calm comes over them. Like, hey, this is it. Like, let's just do this. Was it like that for you, or? I mean, can you explain like what was going through your mind after you kind of came to the conclusion, like, this is it for me. This is, my last day.
It came down because we didn't really have, it was when the Apaches got taken out of the picture, and we were like, oh shit. Like if the Apaches can't come in, gun runs and all B-52s, they do a lot of things, but it's not like an Apache. When Apache comes in, bro, like, people run for the tunnels. Like, the A-10 gun runs are big too. Like, they fuck a lot of shit up, but the Apaches are like really where like the Taliban run. But they had Dishkas set up in the mountaintops, and that's what hit them. So they're waiting for them to come down the valley, and then like just lit them up, right? And so when that happened, that was when it like really registered. I was like, okay, like, this isn't going to be like an average day. And then Thompson was killed within the first like 5 minutes of the battle. I had killed a few dudes around, and so me and my platoon sergeant breeding, we didn't know what the fuck was going on. Like, we weren't going to quit, but we all also thought like we were going to die. And our plan is to wait for the sun to go down, and we had book bags full of all our ammo that we could take. And I was debating whether to take the 60mm mortar. He's like, don't take it with you. I was like, fuck that, man. I'm gonna shoot all this shit. And we're gonna jump in the river and float down. So like, to say like I was calm, I don't know if I really was calm, especially when the bomb runs started coming down again, because they dropped like a ridiculous amount of payloads. It's like it's called like going Winchester when like a B-52 drops everything. We had that twice in one day, and they'd only done it like twice since the initial invasion in 2001. And then we were having 2,000-pound bombs dropped on us, like on our base. Mm-hmm. And and J-Tech would tell us like, oh dude, 600 meters is danger close. You don't even practice. You just read it that 600 meters is danger close. You never call on anything less than 1,000 meters or 2 kilometers out. And we were having bombs dropped on our base, no bigger than a football field, 2,000-pound bombs. So I was actually almost more scared at times that I was going to die by like a friendly fire, because I don't think there are many people out there in the military. Like, if you're on our side of the military and you're dropping bombs, you can like feel the impact or concussion, or say like, oh, you saw it blow up from 2 kilometers out. But until you've been under a 2,000-pound or a JDAM bomb blowing up literally 50 yards from where you're sleeping, that shit bro. I thought I was gonna shit my guts out. Like my stomach, and like I'm like in a hooch with my platoon sergeant. We're hugging each other, and the doors are blowing open, and fucking dust and just shit is flying everywhere. You're like, can't even keep your fucking face on. And that's one after another, after another, after another, after another. I thought I was gonna die more by that. And then when those would come to a lull, and like, you know, the Apaches would come back up, we started fighting more and like getting more ground, and comms were getting back up. I wasn't scared anymore. Like, I was cautious, like, you know, I knew that we were still fighting in a battle, but I wasn't like I wasn't calm, or I wasn't like scared. I was ready to fight. I had a game plan that if they came to get me, I was going to kill myself or shoot it out, kill as many of them before they kill me. And if I made it through that night, I was going to jump in the river and float down. We knew it was about, I think it was like 6 or 8 kilometers to the next American base down the river, and I was going to take my chances floating in the river, see what happened. And you know, we were able to fight and get back. Romache, some of these boys got comms back up. The Apaches came back in. Kiowas came in as well. It was another bird group that came in. And then by the end of the night, we had 10th Mountain was our QRF or reinforcements. They came to the top and worked their way down. And they even got in contact on the way down the hill. It was QRF. I think they killed like 2 or 3 more guys on the way down. Bodies after bodies after bodies. They killed 2 or 3 more. And so, yeah, I don't know if it was a calmness over me, but I was definitely, it was weird. Even like thinking about shooting at some of the people, man, like, you know, you grow up shooting squirrels, and it's just like, you kind of have this like concentration that comes before you pull any trigger. And it just kind of like related back to that, just me shooting, just target practice, like staying focused, come out, take the shots I can take, get my head back down. Like, you know, don't overthink it. Like, just gotta keep fighting. And I tell people though too, a lot, Thompson's body being stuck in the mortar pit and outside of it, I attribute that to why they actually didn't come in and like come into our hooch. I think when they would come down, they would see his body, and they kept just running down the side of it. Like, okay, that's done, keep going. And so it was really, I feel like his body was riddled by the end of the day. Like, it was really bad. But I always say, like, it was his body and his sacrifice that really probably looked like everything in there was already dead. And there was 2 of us hiding. There's 3 of us total. He was killed, and me and Breeding were just fighting. He had one doorway, I had the other. We had a shit one time, bro. He's gonna hate. I said, he had a shit, bro. He was shooting shitting in a mortar tube, like a Tootsie Roll, and like, bro, it smelled so bad. Like, but you got Taliban all around you, bro. Like, sitting there like eating Oreos on my dead friend. My platoon sergeant's taking a shit behind me. I'm like, what the fuck is going on, bro? What the fuck is happening?
This is not what I signed up for.
Where's my Ranger
fuck, dude? Yeah, no shit, right? Damn, man. It's just so, it's like, it's so hard to even imagine. Like I said, if you haven't seen the movie and you watch it, it almost seems like they took some kind of, I don't know, like they went too much. Like, it was too dramatic, you know, like they dramatized it or whatever. But it's like, no, dude, like, you know, you're making it sound like that's exactly what happened, you know. But it's like, I don't know, for those that don't know, I mean, there was 2 Medals of Honor awarded from that battle, you know, and I don't know.
Silver Star, Distinguished Service Cross for Gallegos. He got that after he was post-mortem, and 2 Medal of Honor recipients. Pretty wild. All from the same platoon. We were the most decorated platoon since the Vietnam War. I think the pilots, I think I read something too, that there were 8 pilots got Distinguished Flying Crosses as well for that. But I'm going to take a leak real quick. Can I have a second?
Yeah.
No, you're right, though. There's Distinguished Service Cross. I mean, I was putting for a Silver Star, bro. I have 2 Purple Hearts. I think there was like 20-something Purple Hearts out of my platoon. 2 Medal of Honors, Distinguished Service Cross, 8 Silver Stars, I think, were awarded. Yeah, and then not to mention the pilots and all those guys too, man. Like, yeah.
Now, when the QRF came in, they came in on foot. They didn't fly anybody in.
Yeah, they dropped them off at Fritchie, which is our sister platoon. So they had to drop them off at Fritchie because we couldn't get any birds in. That's why Mace. I mean, he died. He was one of my best friends, bro. If they could have got him out sooner, he probably would have lived. The issue was his guts and lower limbs were all shot to hell. He would have lost both his legs, but they didn't loose the tourniquets up to like let the bad blood out, the kind of thing. is what ultimately got him. But the reason we couldn't get him out is because it was impossible to land anything there. Like, that's why none of the fixed wings would come for QRF, because it was just, again, the Apaches had been hit by the Dishkas round, so they weren't even coming into the valley like that. It was Hellfires, A-10 runs, or B-52s until nightfall, until we literally could get our NVGs out and like control night. But even then, it's like, depending on how bright the moon is, you can still shoot an RPG at a helicopter coming through a valley. It's not like the hardest thing to do. It's obviously more difficult, but you can still make out to see where the bird is in full darkness. But yeah, they had to drop them off at Fritchie and walk down because it was too hectic to get anybody in. They wouldn't. They lifted our ROE for 72 hours after that. We had the free green light to shoot anybody picking up any of the bodies outside in and around the wire, like for 72 hours after. And we do show of force like every 6 hours, let it rip, because they knew we were going to blow the base. So we would go out there with our sniper rifles, see anything, pick it off, do a Hellfire, drop 20, 15, 30 mortar rounds, just whole mountain. Go back the next day, do it again if they were out there. And
how long were you in Afghanistan after this?
6 more months, man.
That's so fucking crazy.
Yeah, 6 months. I was at halftime. Fuck, man. I was at halftime, bro. And I was returning to duty. I could have went home. I could have went to Germany. I think they were trying to get me to go to Germany for something like this. I was like, no, fuck you. I'm not leaving, like, my guys. Like, if one of my guys dies again while I'm not here, I might kill myself kind of shit. So I was like, nah, I'm not going. So my doctor was like, okay, have you had your wisdom teeth pulled? I'm like, no. He's like, get your wisdom teeth pulled. He's like, get your fucking wisdom teeth pulled, get another 3 weeks of like bed rest, and then if you want to become return to duty after a month, we'll send you back out on the line. So okay. So got my wisdom tooth pulled, addicted to Percocets for a little bit. Fucking Army just giving me a blanket of them. Me and the buddies were snorting them type shit. It's fucking fucked up. And then after that month, I was returned to duty. I was back on mission. Like not even 28 days after. I was on, and that actually really fucked with me, was to go back out again, like having survived that, because it's like you feel like you did your job. Like yo, come sub. Let me get can I get a substitute here? Like, they fucked up. But it was like, nah, man, you got 6 more months left in this tour. And to our point, like we're talking about these Marines and all these other guys who do 3 to 7 months, like there's a benefit to that. There's a psychological advantage and just like a brighter light at the end of that tunnel. Whereas like you come out where I was at, like unless I was killed or like wounded more, I still had 6 months left, and it was like that shit really fucked with me.
But if you had taken their offer, would you have gone to Germany for the last 6 months, or how would that have worked? Or just for like a couple weeks and then back out?
Well, I think it would have sent me there for a couple weeks, but what I saw come out of it, a few guys, they were able to like weasel their way out of more time, or just like, hey, I don't want to do this anymore from a mental standpoint. And I'm not trying to call anybody out. You know, there are people I served with that after that, they didn't come back. And they could have come back, you know, they weren't really wounded. So it was like, and again, I'm not going to say that they weren't mentally struggling, because I know
that was a fucked up situation. Yeah, I mean, how could you not be, right?
But it's the same in Iraq, man. Like Humvees got blown up. If you weren't killed, you're RTD the next day. Like, sure, if you had a concussion, then take your bed rest. But bro, we'd get blown up, fucked up, and we were on mission later that day. So it wasn't any. Like, that's just not how the Army works. So I would have went to Launchstroh, I think, something like this, Germany, and then potentially could have gotten out or whatever. But no, I wasn't going to do that. I was going to finish my tour. I denied. I was like, no, just leave me here. I'm not going to leave the country. And then a month later, I was back on mission, running missions out of Fob Bostic.
That seems like one of those situations where they should have pulled everybody that was there out together and let you guys kind of like decompress together. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, because no one else can relate to that. No one else can like sit there and talk to you and be like, oh yeah, totally get it, man. You know, that's what my time was like too. You know, like I can't imagine when you go through something like that, it's got to be hard to even relate to other soldiers, right? You know, like when they're telling a story about their deployment, you're like, dude, like I was in a place where I was getting shot at every couple days, and then I literally thought I was gonna die. You know, like legitimately, not like, oh, there's some rounds landed close to me one time, but like I hear the voices of the enemy walking above me, like 2 feet above me, above my head, because they're surrounding us, and like, I mean, that's just such a out of the box situation that, you know, I feel like special care should have been taken. And I don't know, man. It's such a crazy situation, dude.
Really should have. And it's wild too, because I was part of a 10-year case study. And this was after I got home. Like literally they were like looking at my file and looking at me like, what the fuck? Like how are you, like, whatever. And so like they're like, would you like to be part of the 10-year? I'm like, yeah, for sure. Like, please help me. Like, I'm struggling here. I was gonna say something though. Oh damn, I was gonna make a point, because you had a really good point where they should have just taken us out and like put us all in like the group there. Oh, we came out, but we didn't have anything on. Like, I lost everything. Like all of our equipment and stuff, like our personal belongings were in our ammo points. So when all those got blown to shit, literally everything I owned was destroyed. So I left Keating with just the clothes on my back, and a rifle. That was it. And so it was like, we came back and it was like, I didn't have anything. I didn't have anything. And if it wasn't for like the USO and like, you know, some of these like organizations, they like got care packages together and sent out to us. But like I didn't have shit after that. And so it was like, man, I was really struggling after that one, because it was just like, man, like, you know, you just lose 80 of your best friends in one day. And then Faulkner, we always say 9 killed himself, because Faulkner went and took his life after. And Faulkner, just to give him his props and credit, we were together in Iraq. He was shot in Iraq. He was part of the surge in Iraq, shot, sent home, came back, finished deployment, and they sent him back over. And then he was wounded in Keating, ended up killing himself afterwards. And it's just like, you know, these are the examples of like why it is a detriment to do this to soldiers like that and stuff. So, yeah, no, it was pretty well. I was gonna make a point. Like when people watch my videos on YouTube, I always find it funny when they're like, "Oh, this is from the movie Cop Keating," and I'm like, or this is from the movie The Outpost, and I'll always be like, "No, The Outpost is made." Like, you know, I always correct them, and people don't believe me. They're like, this looks like something from a movie. This doesn't look like it's real." And when I go and give speeches, I have veterans come up to me, like Vietnam vets, like, "Bro, that shit you showed us was like, man, that brought me back to the jungles of, you know, wherever kind of shit." And it's like, so, you know, I didn't think any. Go ahead. Is
it weird to have a book and a movie made about that, you know? And you were in the movie. I mean, what was that like to, like, I don't know. I mean, it was such a significant event, you know, that they made a book. They wrote a book. Jake Tapper wrote a book, and then they ended up taking that and turning it into a movie, and you played yourself in the movie. Was it surreal to play that role of yourself?
Absolutely. But the reality is I always wanted to act. My father was very sport-oriented, military, but my whole life I wanted to do music, and I wanted to play sports as well, but I wanted to do act and do music and all this, but that would have never been like encouraged. Oh yeah, go follow your no. I would like, that wasn't going to happen. And so it was a bit almost serendipitous when the opportunity came, because before this, I was actually part of another Netflix docuseries called Medal of Honor, which is like a 7-series thing, and each episode is a different Medal of Honor recipient, and they do both Ty Carter and Clint Romachet. So I had been a part of those production sets in California, and I played like a small CIA agent from Vietnam in like another episode. So if you rewatch that, I'm like in 2 episodes giving my accounts of the soldier, and then I'm in another episode actually acting. And so that was like my first breakout, like not even breakout. That was like my first toe in the door. Like, hey, I'm like in California trying to act. And then fast forward, Jake Tapper hits me up because I'd been to the White House. I've met Jake Tapper several times. I was living in D.C. I'm from that area, so I went up to the White House while he was still with ABC before he was a CNN, doing interviews while he was writing The Outpost. So he was getting my accounts of the story. And so when they were making the film, he called me. He's like, hey, do you mind being an advisor and giving your pictures, etc., to Rod Lurie and these guys who are making The Outpost? I was like, yeah, sure. So I ride my bike it's in LA. I'm in Manhattan Beach, riding my bike to the meeting, and I walk in. I'm, tank top. He's like, how old are you, man? You look good. And I just thought to myself, I'm going to play myself in this fucking movie. So I go down, give them all the pictures, like talk about it. I was like, hey, man, who y'all have playing me? And they're like, oh, we haven't cast it for you yet. I was like, look, man, like, I'd love to do this. Like, it's something I'm trying to do in my life. Side note, too, my book deal was just optioned for life rights by Sony at the time. So my personal autobiography, Rise, I'm a best-selling author, hit New York Times bestsellers list out of college. So that's what actually sparked my speaking career. So my book had been licensed and purchased, and they were telling me, you cannot go film this movie because in the contract, Hollywood contracts are fucking verbal, like, bullshit. They're like, you can't play anything, like, you can't, essentially, anything in this universe that could be correlated to the same output. They're like, you can't go play yourself in this movie because we have your life rights for a movie that we might make about your life, and the stories could overlap. I'm like, what? You're going to tell me what I can and can't do? So I was like, okay, I won't go. Got on the plane and flew to Bulgaria to film the movie. And I texted him as I was boarding the plane, like, hey, just so you all know, I'm on my way. Go fuck yourself. Like, whatever. And so, like, I flew over there to film the movie. And same question, it came like, man, you sure this isn't going to be traumatic? I'm like, I'm sure it's going to be traumatic, but I know I've lived my entire life for this opportunity. And if this is where those two crossroads meet, and I also had the go ahead from all the families that of my friends that were killed, like, they wanted me to be there. Like, Mace's mom wanted me to be on set so I could help make sure that it was authentic and that it was portrayed correctly. And so, like, but I will tell you, when I got there, man, like, they recreated this base so fucking well. Like, I there was 2 times where I fell asleep on set in between shoots, and I woke up to one side of the base having gunfire filming, and I would wake up in my same hooch and my same bug net, my M4 hanging and everything, and I would, like, think I was in Afghanistan for, like, a solid, like, 5 to 10 seconds. And I'd have to, like, snap out of it and, like, go outside and, like, feel the dirt. Like, that was one thing, like, super kind of Gladiator feel, like, feel the dirt, just like, okay, I'm not in Afghanistan. Like, there's a smell and texture that I know that when I fight, that's what it feels and fights like, and this wasn't it. So there were, like, little cues that really, even when we were filming Thompson's death, I couldn't look at it all the way. I had to, like, close my eyes and, like, because I wanted to be, I was told him how it was, but then when they would do hair and makeup, I would, like, try to just, like, look past it because it would haunt me if I would see it again. So definitely. And there's one other point I wanted to make to you about Quantico, about living in that area, if it prepared me or not. One of the craziest things people don't realize about that area in Virginia is it's home to, like an artillery, like a tank division in Quantico, something like this. I'm not sure of the Marine Corps terminology. My whole life they shot like live fire, or like live range. So my whole life growing up within 10 miles of Quantico, you know, you'd be like every other day, every week, right? And so that was just something that was just common. When I got home from Afghanistan, got out the army, got back in my own bed, there were times where I literally would wake up like sweats because, like, my house was shaking and I was too close to fucking, like, combat again. Like, and so, like, you made a point earlier when we were talking, like, oh, did it prepare you, like, being around it? I wanted to say it then, but it just made it recur to me now. But, like, yeah, when I got home, I went back straight to my room where I just graduated high school, and, like, everybody's like, oh, you're such a hero, blah blah, like, and I'm like, everybody's like, oh, you know, you look so, everything inside me was different, but I was, like, still in this atmosphere where, like, every time my house would shake, it would just, like, throttle me back to Afghanistan, and I couldn't sleep. I had to sleep in the basement of my own house because the walls wouldn't shake as much in my basement. I really fucked up. I was 20. I think I just turned 21, maybe 20, something like this. And it was really hard, but from the acting to go through that, like, to recreate it, you know, it was difficult, but it's what I wanted to do with my life. Like, I've always wanted to be in the arts. I've always wanted to be an actor. So I knew that I had to, like, push through it. And also, another point, answer another question, how do I feel about it? I felt like it was an opportunity for me to have, like, the scapegoat when people would ask me, oh, how was it? What was it like? Or this and that. Like, did you have to kill anybody? It was like, once the Outpost was made, I felt like, here you are, here's my business card. go, you can go check out my website called The Outpost Movie, kind of thing, right? Like, I felt like it kind of just shedded that uniform off me and, like, left something that is going to represent my friends for longer than I'll ever live in a good way, in a real way. You know, it's daunting and it's scary, but it's real. And I just felt like it was like a release of like pressure, like went out, like when the book and the movie got made, because it was like, oh, now people can have an idea of what I went through and not have to have me relive it every single time they want it. They need that information. So it was a nice like release, if you will, of like my trauma, my issues, and, you know, moving forward in my life, but also just being like a normal dude, man. Like, you know, like I got out of the Army when I made it all the way to the NFL. So like, you know, there was more to my life than a lot of people knew. So it was nice to have that chapter kind of crystallized, and now it's there for people to understand, educate themselves, and know the sacrifice that American soldiers make. We're at war.
Yeah, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show to talk about your story, dude, and to kind of share it and everything. And I think people, if they haven't read the book or seen the movie, they should do so. Where can they find your book? Give us all your social media and all that stuff so people can find you.
Yeah, man, my book is super easily on Amazon, like anywhere else. It's on Audible, Kindle, audiobook. It's called Rise. My music's on all platforms. I have over 40 songs on Spotify, Apple Music, 2 albums out now. My next album will be acoustic, do an acoustic album, play guitar. Yeah, and then this next movie that I'm doing with Rod Lurie, he's the same director from Outpost. It's Battle of Bastogne. It's a true story, so it's the Battle of the Bulge. That's Scott Eastwood, Colin Hanks, Tom Hanks' son. So yeah, it's gonna be a legit movie, man. And this will be my biggest role as an actor. So I'm really excited for this film. And I filmed a movie last year with John David Washington called The Creator. It's Gareth Edwards. He's the director of the last Star Wars, and he's doing now the new 3 Jurassic Park movies. But yeah, man, I've just been pursuing this dream, and since the Outpost, I've filmed 5 movies since then. Yeah, and just trying to stay positive and create in this space. And yeah, I'm thankful for you to share that video and, you know, give me a chance to talk about myself and, you know, expose the sacrifices that me and my friends went through. And at the same time, like, you know, the veteran community loves to hear this shit, bro. So it's like, you know, we're in this together. We're in this fight together and still on this world. So, you know, like if ever I can come on and help somebody and maybe make them make a right decision or think differently about their life, then, you know, I'm about it. So I appreciate you giving me the platform to try to shed some positive light. Yeah, dude.
Anytime I can spread, like, you've been through so much, but you've turned around and made the most of it. You know what I'm saying? And that's not meaning you exploit it or anything like that. Like, you've got a positive mindset. You've gone on. There's so much that we haven't even talked about. So later on, if you want to do another episode, we can definitely do that. I mean, you got out, you went to college, you started playing football. You know, like you said, you made it all the way up to the NFL. Now you're acting, you're doing music, you're doing all these positive things. And I think veterans need to see that and know that, you know, there's more to them. There's more for them out there besides, you know, reliving any kind of traumatic experiences or just being in the military in general. You know, it's a different lifestyle. And when people leave that lifestyle, it's a tough transition for a lot of folks because it's just the real world is a different world. You know, there's less order and discipline and stuff like that. So there's a lot that you could do to yourself to go wrong. And I think having a positive story like yours out there is great. And yeah, man. So I hope everybody checks that stuff out. Check out your book, check out your movies. I look forward to seeing you in your new role. And for those that are interested, check out my stuff. It's Former Action Guys, Former Action News on Instagram. My website is jcramergraphics.com. And that's it, dude. I really appreciate it.